As we turn back toward what's going to be happening next week all across Wisconsin, I would remind folks that the Coulee region, with its ups and downs of its many ravines, is kind of a good geographical representation of today's up and down and back and forth politics. But a lot of the voters there are really more like the adjoining Driftless area, more steady and moderate. The 32nd State Senate District is made up of parts of both regions, where incumbent Senator Brad Pfaff is facing a challenge that'll test whether moderation is still a quality rewarded by voters in a year that is turbulent unlike any other. And Senator Brad Pfaff joins us now from Onalaska to talk more about the campaign. Senator Pfaff, good morning.
Well, Pat, it's great to hear your voice and to see you. Good morning.
Good to see you as well. Having been in your position and knowing just how busy things are, knocking on doors and talking to folks out there, how are you feeling with a week to go?
Well, I will say this. I'm feeling really good. Obviously, we've got work to do, without a doubt. This is a topsy-turvy election season, and anything can happen. So you keep yourself very grounded. And make sure that you're out in the communities. And you know me, Pat, I love to be out in those rural communities, and there's nothing better than a hot cup of coffee out there talking to voters and the local diners first thing in the morning.
And the fact of the matter is, Brad, that is the way I've described the district is the way that it is. And it has been described that way before, that it's not purple for the sake of being purple. It just appears to be in the DNA of folks. Everywhere we go, everywhere we hear, I vote for the person, not the party. A lot of times that's some wishful thinking on the part of the person who says it. I feel like you live in the neck of the woods that lives up to that saying.
Well, I mean, it is true. I mean, the people here in the Driftless region, I mean, they're hardworking, they're resilient, they're very dedicated, they love their family, but they also, quite frankly, want to make sure that they get their fair share. And, we have seen within our political apparatus, we have seen where, our rural communities continue to lose people. And we need to make sure that, we're not forgotten here. And that is something that I've done my level best to make sure that voices are being heard. And, I think that we can point, quite frankly, to what's happening right now in the majority party in the Wisconsin state legislature. When you look at the fact that we've saw two healthcare facilities up in the Chippewa Valley, which you know well, which sadly have closed their doors. And we have an opportunity in the Wisconsin state legislature in order to expand Badger Care. So 90,000 plus Wisconsin residents would have access to healthcare that they currently don't have access to. And we could reinvest the money that we receive from the federal government, $1.7 billion. We could reinvest that back into our rural healthcare infrastructure. But instead, partisan politics is taking place. We've also seen a situation here in the town of Campbell in La Crosse County in which too many people have been drinking bottled water for the last 4 years, while politics is being played with the Joint Finance Committee, the majority party in the legislature. The voters here, may they be Republican or Democrat, they see through that. They know that there's politics is being played for politics' sake, and they're very frustrated with that. And so, I need to keep myself grounded. I need to make sure that I'm continuing to listen and to advocate. But I am someone that wears my pride of my rural roots on my sleeve. And I will say this, is that we need to continue to invest in places. We need to invest in rural communities. And we need to make sure that people that live in rural areas have opportunities to succeed like everyone else.
What does it say that so much rural investment has been made by the Biden-Harris administration and by Governor Tony Evers, essentially filling in gaps that the Republican-led legislature wouldn't do? Because these are not Democratic strongholds, of course, by any measure, and yet all these investments are being made.
Yeah, and that's a very good question, Pat, and thank you for focusing on that. And, we as policymakers need to make sure that we can also message, and we need to get that message out, the work that we are doing. But it can't just be a one and done. And I really do appreciate the infrastructure work that's been done by the Biden administration, because that's long term. But we need to continue to invest, long term, but we need to be there on a daily basis as well. And that is why I'm focusing on public education. because one of the things that continues to unite our communities is the importance of our public schools. And, if we want to make sure that we can continue to have, our rural communities move forward, we need to have a strong uniting force, which is public education. And I'd like to say that public education, regardless of one zip code, if a child grows up, regardless of their zip code, they need to have an opportunity to succeed. And we can do that through public education. But getting back to your main point, that is, we have to continue to message. We have to continue to listen. One of the things that, brings all of our attention is the fact that we continue to lose people in rural areas, and we lose our young. And that scares us because, we want our children to be able to succeed. We want our children to, to grow and to mature, but we also want to make sure that, we get an opportunity to see them. And when they leave these rural communities, they may not always come back, and that scares us.
Hold that thought, Brad. We're going to pick it up on the other side of this break on Up North News Radio on the Civic Media Radio Network. 7 days, folks, and you can shake it off all you want. Election Day is just 1 week away. Quick check on sports here at 7:21. The Bucks have dropped to 1-3 on the season after the Boston Celtics beat the Bucks 119-108. The Bucks next play Thursday at Memphis. The Badger football team is at Iowa this coming Saturday. Pregame at 4:30 on Civic Media stations across Wisconsin and the Civic Media app. Sunday's Packer game against Detroit is a 3:25 kickoff. Pregame at 1 o'clock on several Civic Media stations. The Badger men's basketball team is getting ready to get its season going. They're taking on River Falls Wednesday, and you can hear that game 6 p.m. Wednesday on stations in Amory, Wisconsin Rapids, Racine, Kenosha, and Richland Center. The Badger men's hockey team plays Friday at Notre Dame. Coverage begins at 5:30 on WFHR in Wisconsin Rapids, and there's all kinds of high school sports that you can access across the Civic Media app as well. Let's continue our conversation now with State Senator Brad Pfaff, who's up for re-election in the 32nd District. And as I was looking through to pass along your social media info here, Brad, the website is bradpfaff.com. Pfaff is P-F-A-F-F. At Facebook, it's Brad Pfaff for Wisconsin, and on Instagram, it's Brad Pfaff WI. But it was on the Facebook page that I noticed just now that for everything we've talked about, with Senator Tammy Baldwin being the first Democrat in over 20 years running for statewide office to be endorsed by the Wisconsin Farm Bureau Federation, here I see you've got their endorsement as well for your state Senate race, which is, again, for a Democrat running, they don't have to endorse. Why do you think they did that?
Well, first of all, I'm very appreciative of that. And I will say this. I think they recognize the fact that, if we're going to continue to invest in Wisconsin and move Wisconsin forward, we need to make sure that we work with legislators on both sides of the aisle. And, I am someone that, has reached out to Wisconsin Farm Bureau. I've sought, their thoughts and their ideas. Obviously, I am, very clear-minded on, what has happened in the past as far as some of their political endorsements, but I wanted to learn from them. And I wanted to hear their thoughts. And I shared their thoughts when it came to make sure that we have a strong rural infrastructure. Roads and bridges are so very important. I share with them on the ideas that we need to continue to invest in new markets for our family farmers. And, I also share with them the overall idea that, we need to recognize the fact that the, rural America is continuing to evolve and grow. And there's changes that are taking place economically as well as socially. And if we can continue to focus attention on what's happening and make sure that there's freedoms for, our residents that live in rural areas, as well as those that live in urban and suburban areas. What we've seen, Pat, is that we have really seen in this last few years is this attacks on personal liberty. And, that is just something that I think cuts across. It cuts across all different political makeups. And, I appreciate the fact that the Wisconsin Farm Bureau has joined other groups in supporting my reelection to the state Senate.
Well, and I think it's in keeping with things that we see, that we hear about anecdotally, but also the things that are quite objectively apparent as well. From an anecdotal standpoint, I would point to Alicia Saunders' comment on YouTube this morning. Voters have been telling me at the doors that they are Republican and are voting blue all down the ticket this year because they want better leadership. Then there are the objective things that we can see, like the Republican mayor of Waukesha, Sean Riley, campaigning in Waukesha yesterday with Tim Walz, who would be the next Democratic vice president of the United States. A big banner over the top where they were speaking that said country over party. Brad, for reasons that are readily apparent, and we don't have to worry about the reasons, but the evidence is that all over Wisconsin, all over this country, folks that typically voted Republican are feeling like something different needs to happen this year.
I agree with that. I hear that every single day. I mean, there is I hate to use words like this, but there's a realignment that is taking place right now. We have seen something interesting that has come into our politics, and that is that rather than us focusing on what could be best in order to our economy or what kind of healthcare policy, what we're seeing is this politics of cultural resentment. And we're seeing where we're pulling people apart, and that's not who any of us are. And so I do believe that from the mayor of Waukesha to my neighbors here in Western Wisconsin, they are saying, Brad, let's do something better. Let's do something different.
Another example is I served with Rob Coles in the Senate. Mm-hmm. You serve with him right now. His saying that he's going to be voting for Vice President Harris and Governor Walz. Again, not everybody knows him, but he's the longest serving legislator right now. He's the longest serving Republican. And so folks that do know him, that was a bit of a political earthquake. And again, strikes me as indicative of the environment we're in this year.
I agree with that completely. For those that have worked with Rob Coles, I think we all know the fact that he's a very smart man and he cares greatly about his district and what he's trying to do as far as providing opportunities for people. So you have the current longest serving Republican state senator endorsing Harris for president. That says something. But what it also says is that we want something different than what is taking place right now. We know that we can do something better. And that is that, we may not always agree when it comes to every single thing, but we know that we need to move forward. And this continuing to look backward and to pull people apart, that just isn't healthy. And that just isn't who we are here in Western Wisconsin. And I will say the people in the state of Wisconsin, they know that we can do better. And that is why Tony Evers continues to move forward while the leadership in Madison and the legislature, they're just retreating. And, they're not providing a direction for us to move forward.
Right. And so all of that, plus the thing that we didn't even have time for, but in terms of the congressional race in that area, again, voters are looking at somebody so wildly extreme and volatile in Derek Van Orden, which, again, I think a turning away from Trumpism and what he's done is only going to help your own chances for reelection in the 32nd district as well. Brad Pfaff, thank you so much. I appreciate the update. We will talk again after Election Day here.
Thank you. Vote Rebecca Cook for Congress. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Brad.